morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to take a little bit of a look at a new Sableye card, a rather mean, evil-looking Sableye card. Kind of like the artwork on this one. The question is, of course, what do we think about this new Sableye card? Are we excited about this new Sableye card? And is it the kind of thing that we're going to be wanting to have a play with? Well, our translation comes from the lovely Joe over at Sableye.net. And if we start off with the basics here, we've got 70 HP, which is frankly very, very low. Having said that, though, it is Sableye, and Sableye does tend to have low HP, so maybe we can forgive it. Retreat cost of 1 does mean free retreat with U-turn board, which is rather nice. And a weakness to grass is basically irrelevant. Grass is not widely played, and you've got 70 HP. I mean, 30 is one of those numbers that Pokemon like to hit, so I suppose you won't be KO'd by anything doing 30 that's a grass Pokemon, so yay. But, you know, give me a shout if anyone finds anything relevant that meets that description. Being a Darkness Pokemon means you are hitting weakness on Dragapult, although, I'll be honest with you, people have kind of stopped playing that, unfortunately, for you hitting weakness, so that's not ideal. Giratina. There's still people playing the Giratina from Unified Minds. You'll hit that for weakness. Yay! You won't two-hit KO. Boo! Etc. And being a Darkness Pokemon, remember that Black Market Prism Star is one of the very few Prism Stars that survived the rotation. So if you've got a Darkness Energy attached, you won't give up a prize. We've still got that Dark Drill card, which is kind of a little bit weird, that lets you discard special energy, so that's kind of fun. So, you know, you've got some tricks. And, of course, Dangerous Drill, that's what it's actually called. And you know that Eternatus V Max really needs you to play a whole bunch of Darkness Pokemon, so any Darkness Pokemon that can be a tech, we're going to be looking at it in the future going, okay, are we going to want to play it in Eternatus decks? Well, are we? Well, what does it do? Well, according to the lovely Joe, Sableye.net, great website, for a single colorless energy, you draw a card. Now, I am not going to sit here and try and convince you that drawing a card is a particularly good thing. It's not. Drawing a card is not a good thing. Well, okay, right. Obviously, drawing a card is a good thing as opposed to not drawing a card. But if you want to just draw cards, Sudowoodo's like infinitely better. The Sudowoodo that came around in Sword and Shield for a single colorless energy draws you 2 cards. That's a good thing. And for a single colorless energy, you do 10 damage for each damage counter on Sudowoodo. Which, again, weirdly they do share the grass weakness. I'm not actually saying that people are going to want to play Sudowoodo necessarily for Flail, but you've got Flail as an option. You can use Flail if you want to. If you are in a little bit of a bind, Flail will be there for you. And it also just basically means your opponent is going to have to be super careful. They're not going to be able to start picking away and doing a little bit of damage. Something like, let's take Duraludon as an example. Duraludon there can do 30 damage while accelerating energy, but if you want to accelerate the energy, you've got to do the damage. Well, the good news is that Sudowoodo will then hit you back, which is nice. What this is a nice bonus. This is I'm playing it for the other attack. This will do. All right? Not saying it's amazing. I'm saying that I've got nothing else. This will do to draw a card. Of course, most of the time, if you're playing like an Eternatus deck, what you'd much rather have is Eternatus V turn 1, because Eternatus V will allow you to, for 1 energy, do 30 damage and attach a Darkness Energy from your hand to one of your bench Pokemon. That is a better turn 1 option. This is fine in an emergency. But we're playing it for the second attack. 2 colorless energy, Torment. Choose one of your opponent's active Pokemon's attacks. During your opponent's next turn, that Pokemon can't use that attack. And this actually could work for buying you time. And it is nothing more than that. It is a buying you time kind of attack. That is what it is. That is what it does. And for that, it's kind of cool. You see, we got a lot of Pokemon around at the moment, and VMAXs fall into this trap more often than not, that literally only have 1 attack. And when a Pokemon's only got 1 attack, that makes them primed for this. So take Eternatus VMAX. It's got a really nice attack, Dread End, 30 damage for each Darkness Pokemon that you've got in play, but that's the only attack Eternatus has got. So what you essentially do is you go, alright, can't use it next turn. And this isn't perfect, because you're just stopping them attacking. They can switch, they can retreat, etc. But then again, Eternatus has a retreat cost of 3. So if they've only got 2 energy on, they're not going to be able to retreat. And even if they do retreat, are they going to have enough energy? Like, are they just going to be retreating into another Pokemon that can't attack? Do they have a backup Eternatus? The great situation here, and this is not a chuck it up and just have fun kind of attack. This is a perfectly planned win the game. This will shut your opponent out if it runs perfectly. Now, this is actually really cool. In a lot of online tournaments we see at the moment, the Players' Cup being a prime example, we're playing with open deck lists. You can look at your opponent's deck list during the game. What that means is you can count their energy. You know how much energy they've got. You know how many more times they're going to be able to power up an Eternatus. So let's say, for argument's sake, your opponent has used all of their switching cards and they have basically just enough energy on the Eternatus. This can win you the game. If you know they can't switch out and you know they can't afford to retreat, you just Sableye for the win. And don't get me wrong, 11 hits on an Eternatus VMAX will actually not get the KO, though if you're playing it in an Eternatus deck, you will be playing Galarian Zigzagoon, so you can turn it into an 11-hit KO. Woo! The point I'm making here is, if you're playing Eternatus, you just need a bunch of Darkness Pokemon, and honestly, you want a bunch of basic Darkness Pokemon. Why not one Sableye? Why not have a Sableye so if your opponent has to run through too many resources, they get greedy with Professor's research, etc., you can punish them for it. If you can pounce on a Pokemon that can't switch out, you can lock them out of the game. They can retreat, but again, they might not be able to retreat. And there's plenty more examples. Now, against something like Dragon Ball VMAX, it's not going to work brilliantly. They won't one-hit KO you with Shred, but they'll still be able to use Shred if you turn off Max Phantom. But how about Centiskorch? Centiskorch has a single attack. And that single attack does a huge amount of damage. It's 40 base plus 40 for each energy on it. But Centiskorch is often not going to have a huge amount of other viable attackers, because the beauty of Centiskorch is piling energy on so that you can then sweep for the game, KO everything, literally run through your opponent's entire board. So turn off G-Max Centinferno. They don't have a backup attack. There is no other attack that they can use. So they're stuck in the active. And they can get out the active if they've got the cards. But again, this is either I know their deck list and they can't get out the active, or I feel confident that they won't be able to get out the active. I think I'm going to be able to trap them in the active, and that's going to be hilarious. That's what I'm looking for here. It is not an every deck card. It is not an every game card. But it is the kind of tech that can win you games when your opponent isn't ready. Zacian V literally has one attack. Turn it off. Zamazenta V literally has one attack. Turn it off. We are in a format where a lot of the best decks only have one attack. And then you've got your tag teams, things like Pikachu and Zekrom, and fine. Pikachu and Zekrom does have a second attack. Their GX attack. So if you turn off Full Blitz, what are they going to do? Tag Bolt for 200 to get rid of your Sableye and then not be able to use a better version of the GX attack that also hits 170 to the bench? Maybe? But does that really sound like the best idea? I would argue it probably doesn't. That's what I like about Sableye. Find all of these Pokemon that only have one attack, and you gotta time it right. You've got to time it right or your opponent will just retreat or switch out. But if you do time it right, this can legitimately win you games. In terms of energy cost, it is 2 colorless energy, so you could play it in a welder deck if you wanted. You could play it in any deck using twin energy, and that would work quite nicely. any energy acceleration would do. Play it in a lightning deck. Use Tapu Koko Prism Star to put one energy on and put the other one on from your hand. There's plenty of ways to get it rolling. I ain't saying this is a powerhouse card. I am saying that if you can afford to play it in your deck, it is a one-card deck that could literally win you games if your opponent falls for it. And that is something we've got to consider. This is exactly the same kind of card that sees no play, no play, no play, no play. Someone goes and wins a regional, and this just happens to be in their deck. And it maybe won them one game throughout the regional. But you know what? That might be enough. I'm going to give it 3 Wassies because this is a card you put in your binder hoping that you can take it out and win a game occasionally. And that is the definition of a free Wassie card. But I'd like to know what you think. So let me know in the comment section, would ya? Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at The Wassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.